This is the Hilux Conquest TRD. Toyota seems to be using the TRD badge very liberally lately. This TRD variant has no performance modifications. It is just a Hilux Conquest with a few added plastic trims on the exterior. Is it worth its 1.77 million peso price tag? Let's find out. When I first saw the Hilux Conquest TRD, I thought that it was a customer's vehicle. It didn't look like a vehicle that would come directly out of a Toyota dealership. It had plenty of aftermarket plastic parts, and it looked very multicolored. My truck has exactly the same color scheme. I like how my truck looks, but I don't think that the color scheme works as well for the TRD. There are too many colors going on at the front. The grille looks tacky. I think it would have looked better in flat black and without the red trims. The glossy black finish makes it look like it's made of cheap plastic. The fender flares would have looked nice if the tires were a bit bigger. Instead of making the vehicle look wider, they have the opposite effect. They make the tires look smaller. The whole car just looks so busy. It looks like someone went shopping for aftermarket plastic parts in Banawe and just randomly bought everything. The Hilux Conquest TRD is powered by the same 2.8-liter engine that powers the 4x4 Fortuner. It produces 174 horsepower. In contrast, the Wildtrak only has a 2-liter engine but produces a whopping 210 horsepower. Also, the Hilux comes with a 6-speed automatic, while the Wildtrak comes with a 10-speed automatic. The interior of the Hilux looks pretty good at first glance. It looks sleek and modern. It has plenty of swooping lines. In comparison, the Ranger's interior looks more utilitarian, more angular, and it looks more masculine. In terms of materials, I think the Wildtrak wins. Most of the surfaces on the Hilux are made of hard plastics. It also has these piano black plastic trims, which some would probably love and some would probably hate. They're fingerprint magnets though. In comparison, the Wildtrak's dashboard is covered in stitched leather. Also, the Hilux Conquest has fabric seats, while the Wildtrak has leather seats. Like on the Fortuner, the infotainment system on the Hilux looks pretty cheap and basic. It doesn't have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. The screen is pretty small, and it doesn't look like it's well integrated into the dashboard. It looks like an aftermarket tuned-in head unit. The Wildtrak's infotainment display looks like it was actually designed into the dashboard.
Makita niyo po yan. Pwede niyo kontrolin yung dito.
Wala siyang voice control.
Meron sir.
Please say a command.
May cooler din.
Meron po.
The suspension of the Hilux is very firm, perhaps the firmest in this segment. The upside is that it has good load carrying capacity. The downside, and this may be a very significant downside for some, is that the ride quality is terrible, especially when there's no load at the back. The steering is still hydraulic, so it's stiffer compared to the electronically assisted steering of the Wildtrak. Also, the 2.8-liter engine of the Hilux is a bit less fuel efficient compared to the competition. It does about 7.5 kpl on the city. It has the biggest displacement engine in the segment, and its power output is far from the best. Both the Ranger 2.0 bi-turbo and the Strada 2.4 have smaller engines but produce more power. I test drove the Conquest right after I test drove the Wildtrak. And if I have to be brutally honest, it felt like a major step down in terms of interior materials and features. For one, the hydraulic steering of the Hilux felt a lot heavier than the electronic steering of the Wildtrak. Heavy steering may be a good thing for sports cars, but for utility vehicles like this, I'd rather have lighter steering. The Wildtrak also has luxury conveniences like self-parking and active noise cancellation. The Wildtrak has more active safety features like adaptive cruise control, blind spot warning, and automated braking. The Hilux is so low-tech that it doesn't even have a backup camera. Most of the surfaces on the Wildtrak are also covered in stitched leather, compared to the bare plastics on the Hilux. To top it all off, the Ranger Wildtrak is cheaper by almost 100,000 pesos. Also, if you can spend a little bit more, add 100,000 pesos on top of the Hilux, and you get the beastly Ford Ranger Raptor, which is a whole nother class of vehicle in terms of awesomeness. In my mind, there's just no competition. The main selling point of the Hilux is the Toyota badge. Toyota is known for producing very reliable vehicles. It is too early to tell if this generation of the Hilux will be reliable, since it hasn't been out for very long, but Toyota is riding on the reputation of its past vehicles. And if that's any indication, then maybe this will be a very reliable vehicle as well. So there you have it, the Hilux Conquest TRD. It could have been a really good vehicle if only the competition wasn't a lot better.